Come with me to a magical place where being labeled the Pork Queen is a compliment, where being nice is just a way of life, and where all leaders of the free world must pass through. Welcome to Iowa. Whether you're a current Iowan, an Iowa expat, or an Iowan at heart, this show is for you. This is the Iowa Podcast. Real Iowans, real talk, no drama. Well, Time Magazine's 100 Most Influential People, Dr. Alan Stern's going to be here. National Geographic's Adventure of the Year, Maureen Mo Beck, that's what people know her as, Mo Beck. National Geographic Explorer Dr. Niall McCann, Commander Susan Kil-rain, the youngest person to pilot a NASA space shuttle mission, and Jonathan Frakes, which, of course, Commander Ryker on StarTrek. All of them are coming to Iowa, and you're probably wondering, wow, that sounds like an expensive ticket cost. So it's not actually, I assure you, it's actually very cheap. I think it's free. So we're going to talk about that today. Why is everyone coming to Iowa? And to join us to discuss that is Dr. Anthony Paustian, president of DMACC. Is that the actual title? Provost. I always get confused on the academic language. But Provost of DMACC West, and of course, the executive director of CI Week.
Yeah, I founded it.
Yeah, perfect.
It's our 15th year.
15th year. So tell me about, for those that don't know, every time I go, it's packed, wall to wall, like standing room only, every time. But Iowa's a big state. There are a lot of people who don't know about it. So break down for people who haven't been there what CI Week is and why it happens.
Okay, so this began in 2010. So this is our 15th year, like I said. 2010, we thought we would do something to inspire people. Just to bring somebody real in that maybe Iowans haven't had a chance to ever meet. So for that year, I brought in Alan Bean. He was the fourth man to walk on the moon in Apollo 12. And he spoke twice. We had that. We did a whole bunch of DMACC workshops and events on campus, interactive stuff with faculty over the course of the week. And then he was our highlight, our keynote for to wrap it up. And it was a huge crowd. And like I said, that's what kicked us off. Over the years, it's grown. We've added more and more speakers every year. It was a multi-day event, but then that became a beast that was difficult to feed after a while.
Yeah.
And because by 2 years after after the first year, we had Steve Wozniak was here, and we've had Damon John from Shark Tank, and we've had the cast of MythBusters over the years. We've had Josh Gates from Expedition Unknown, and tons of people over the years.
It's quite. the list for your history is
it's on the website. You can go see it.
Yeah, it's crazy.
CI.live. It's a long list. And we have very, very generous sponsors to pay for all this. So, because one of the important things for me was that the people who need to hear the inspiring stories from these people are the ones that can't afford to pay the big ticket prices. I mean, if you can afford to spend $8,000 to go to a TED conference, which is the cost to go to a full-on TED conference, you're probably already inspired. So my take has always been that people who need to be inspired don't have those kind of dollars. So we made it free. 3 years ago, we added a streaming aspect to this because we realized our footprint, we can only house, I think the most we ever had for one speaker was 850, and that was for WAS. And the
850?
Yeah, live, because the building was packed.
Oh, 850 people.
850 people, yeah.
I missed that. Okay,
850 people. And the building was packed. So we realized we needed a bigger footprint. So what we did was 3 years ago, we added E360 TV, which is our streaming partner. They're out of the West Coast. And we broadcast the event live now, like a live television show. That's one reason why it's been compressed into a full day.
Oh, sure.
And we run the morning like we kick it off. Ed Wilson from WHO TV is our the chief meteorologist who lies half of his life as a weather guy, because he's giving us false reports frequently. But we always joke about that. But anyway, he's our host for the event.
Oh,
and
cool.
Over the course of the day, we have Ed will talk to people. We run TV commercials for our sponsors in between segments.
Oh, that's a great idea.
Every segment is 45 minutes long. We have 15 minutes of interviews and talk with Ed talking and commercials and some outtakes from past CI lives, and then we start the next speaker, and then it runs like that all day long. And we have a live editing crew that basically about half a dozen cameras, different angles. They're editing like a television show, and it just goes on continuous all day long until we wrap it up at the end of the day. So last year we had 65,000 live viewers for the event.
Whoa, hold on. 60. I don't. That was quick. 65,000.
65,000 live viewers. So we went from a few hundred people. Yeah.
Just to give the audience some perspective here, 65,000 people exceeds the circulation size for like a lot of niche media companies. So 65,000 people is quite a lot. But continue.
Yeah. Well, it's about this. It's about the population of West Des Moines when you when you take out all the people who commute to West Des Moines every day to work, but the ones who live there, it's about that population. Maybe a little bit less, but again, we broadened our footprint. And we're touching people all over the world now with it. But the intent was again is just to inspire people with inspiring stories of achievement, to tell their story about how they got to where they're at in life, some of the obstacles and hurdles they've had to overcome. So it's just a great way to sit there and listen, absorb, and interact with people that maybe you never get to meet in your life. And because these people are very personable, they actually will interact with people live. They'll sign autographs. They'll take a selfie with you, whatever.
Yeah, it's and I've been there, and it is cool. They just hang out with people. You have time with them, and the environment is really cool because it's not this massive stage environment where they're distant. They're like practically on top of the audience, and there's a lot of engagement, interaction, which makes it really, really fun. One of the I'm still thinking about 65,000. I had no idea you were pulling that kind of viewership.
Our goal this year is 100,000 because we're doing a lot of national media advertising. So yeah.
So a lot of these individuals, as you correctly point out, are very, very, very expensive to get in a room. And like some of them, their speaker fees are 50, 100,000. I have a question to follow up this, but what's the highest, you don't have to tell me who it is, but what's the highest speaker fee of one of the speakers that we've gotten here in Iowa?
Well, people always ask me this question because they're like, how are you getting all these, I get this all the time, how are you getting all these people to come to Iowa for this event? I mean, where's this money coming from? Because it's not a secret the speaker fees are ridiculous, right? And they've gotten worse since COVID.
For these individuals, absolutely.
Yeah, well, they've gotten worse. I mean, for many of the people that I'm talking about, I brought in over the years, their fees have doubled since COVID.
Whew.
And for lots of reasons. One, they really deep down don't want to travel. Or B, they're trying to recover all their lost COVID money since we were shut down for a year plus. So, but for whatever reason, people that I could probably book for, say, $20,000 before COVID come in are now 40.
Wow.
And so the fees have gone up. The most I've ever paid for a speaker is $35,000.
That's really good.
And that was for a speaker whose normal rate was $120.
Yeah.
And of course, being as the fact that this is part of DMACC, a community college, it's free to the community and sponsor paid for. I've been able to use those items to leverage a little bit the rate down, and play upon their good-natured selves.
Right.
And they give me a discount.
Yeah, and that makes sense because a lot of professional speakers, they're like, if I'm going to come in there and teach a bunch of rich people how to get richer, I'm going to charge you money.
Right.
But if I'm going to come and I'm going to teach people who have no money, like a lot of these individuals really want to give to the communities.
Right.
And so that's value. That's valuable. They want to give. It's not this, there's an element of altruism there, right? So that's valuable to them too. Yeah, but like it is expensive, so are all the sponsors just footing the bill? All these sponsors are the ones writing those checks?
Yeah, they are.
It's a lot of money to pull this off. Even with reduced speaker fees, it's a lot of money.
And I gotta do some shout out to our sponsors because I will tell you that
we'll get those names in the show notes too.
Yeah, absolutely. But our presenting sponsor for the last few years, quite a number of years, has been West Bank here local. Mm-hmm. But they are publicly traded on NASDAQ, so they are a large regional bank. Dave Nelson is the CEO of West Bank. Has always been a big fan of this event, and he's told me in the past that he feels like this is one of the few events that West Bank sponsors that he gets any real value out of.
Oh wow!
Because, I've been there. I've been where he's at, where everybody and their brother comes to you for money. Like little league teams and et cetera. And you'll give them some money, but then you never hear from them again.
Right.
And this event has had lasting value for him. First of all this talks from prior speakers for the last 8-9 years were on their website. So you can go, like TED Talks, you can go out and see a CI talk that's been done 4, 5, 6 years ago. If you missed one of them, so they're all out there at ci.live. So they get some real lasting value out of this. So they've been a real big player in this for us. But initially our first presenting sponsor was the United States Army. And then, of course, with sequester that happened a long time ago when the budget got cut and like wiped out, that killed that for them. So we had to pivot and move to a different presenting sponsor. We had Microsoft as a presenting sponsor.
Yep.
And of course, the powers that be up in Redmond keep changing. So, the people we started with had a real connection to this, and then the ones who replaced them did not so much. So they kept, they shift priorities. So we felt we wanted a local sponsor, local but regional, that was going to stick around and be with us and ride this train with us down the road. And West Bank has done that.
Yeah.
But we have all the normal players. I mean, the Greater Des Moines Partnership's been a sponsor of this for many, 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 many years. City of West Des Moines has been a sponsor of this since the beginning. We have Hy-Vee's been, has been a sponsor of this. Anglo has been a sponsor of this for a long time. It was Jersey Mike's. We've had Shive Hattery's been a long-term sponsor of this. I mean, I can go on. We've had lots and lots of sponsors for this event over the years.
Yeah.
That have just been very generous for us. Yes, and please do put that list in your show notes.
And I've done smaller events and worked on events before, and it's like really high pressured when you're naming sponsors live because you're like trying to think of them. So that's why we'll put those up.
Yeah.
We'll put those up there. We certainly appreciate, of course, obviously being the Iowa podcast, we certainly appreciate when companies contribute to the local community and build things like
and
this.
Of course,
so we'll get their names
DMACC
up.
Foundation is a big sponsor of this too, because this is again a give back to the community. So our own foundation is a big sponsor of this.
So this is you've brought this up a few times. Which is earlier. Shoot, I wish I remembered what you said. I should have wrote it down. But DMACC is a little unusual. Like I think community colleges nationally get a really bad rap, and some in other states kind of deserve it, frankly. But DMACC is highly unusual. And when I meet students who are going to DMACC, they're students. They don't quite understand it yet. But I'm like, oh, you're going to DMACC. That is such an amazing school. And they look at me and they're like, yeah, I mean, I chose to go there, but what's up with you? And I remember years ago when I was doing design stuff, and I think there were other colleges that were a design school, and then students coming from DMACC, and the DMACC students were so much better prepared. They were so razor sharp. They were hard workers, and I think a lot of people overlook, and I know this word is thrown around a lot, but I think a lot of people overlook just how like on the bleeding edge DMACC really is. So what is... Like, why is it built different? Is it Denson? Is it some of the team there? Is it what is that? Why is DMACC so different? And,
well, again, listen, this goes back to the leadership that was in place when I was hired. I mean, this is my 25th year at DMACC, so I was hired way back, what feels like before the Stone Age, to design and build a college campus that was unique.
That looks like a spaceship.
Yeah, that's what I was hired to do. I mean, I was hired to build something that was unique and different, that was focused on innovation and IT and technology. And so, I mean, and we did. And we were, back in the early 2000s, we were the first college campus in the country to be all wireless. We're the first college campus in the country,
Wow.
to use handheld technology. We used pocket PCs to deliver course content.
Wow.
Because of Napster, ebooks were not available, so we had to write our own ebooks for our instruction.
That's interesting.
We were doing some stuff that was way cutting edge. That wasn't happening in education yet at that time. So we got a lot of national press for it. I mean, we were featured on CNN a couple times and NPR and USA Today, et cetera. We got a lot of press for it. And so DMACC's always kind of had this mentality of doing things differently and trying, and whatever we are doing, to do it on the kind of the cutting edge of what's current. Because we are smaller. From the standpoint of, we don't have the large-scale, top-heavy processes we have to go through to get approvals on everything. I mean, I pretty much have been allowed to run West Campus like it's mine. So
interesting.
I mean, while I still have to comply with all the DMACC requirements and procedures and policies and so on and so forth, every campus is unique. I mean, every campus in DMACC has its own kind of vibe and shtick, and it kind of goes down that path. So students have a lot of variety to choose from.
With the college debt concern, that's in the news constantly. Right. So is that helping send more students to DMACC? Or obviously DMACC still has a cost. The cost is crazy low when you think about what you do for these students. It's insanely low. But so is that sending more students, or because there's still a cost and college is kind of being, in a way, demonized a little bit, is this helping send more students to DMACC, or are students not coming to DMACC? What's the enrollment look like?
Well, our enrollment still tends to grow. Other schools are flat or declining.
Yeah,
you're right. There's been this big push recently for people to look hard at the return on investment on college, and I don't blame them. I mean, because college debt's gotten kind of out of hand. And, DMACC is a very, very cost-effective way to get trained to do a job. And we've all heard for many, many decades that the average job in this country does not require more than 2 years of skill training. Yeah. And it's been that way forever, as long as I can remember. And we do a lot of specific partnerships with companies for that very purpose.
That's true.
Like for example, Rob Denson will always talk about the AccuMold partnership we have with AccuMold up in Ankeny, where they pay for people to go to our program, and then they work at AccuMold, and they have a job waiting for them at AccuMold, and it's all about AccuMold, which is great. Yeah, and we do a lot of that. So we're training the workforce, and we're not training people to get a degree. And this is not a slam to any 4-year institution, but one of the reasons why people are taking a look at this now is because they go to college, they get a degree, and I have a good friend of mine, Adam Carroll, always talks about that his college for him was the greatest 4-year party of his life. And they come out with a degree, but that degree doesn't align well with a career or a job, right? Yeah. So a degree and whatever, and they're like, well, what do I do with this now? And they go to work at a call center, or they go to work somewhere else, and they're trying to figure it out at that point. And then many of those come back to us for skill training, for a job. So I think you're seeing a realignment a little bit of why people go to college and what they're trying to get out of it. And we are such a gig economy now, and people are kind of like cafeteriaing their entire life, saying, I want this, I want that, I want this. So we've had students come to us for 3 or 4 classes, and that's all they wanted, and they're out. They want those for a job they're doing or a skill they wanted to learn, then they're gone. Yeah. So.
Well, back to guests, because naturally, when we see this amount of just incredible guests.
And you didn't list them all.
Huh?
And you didn't even list them all.
No, I didn't. I listed, I think, half.
Yeah.
I listed the half that'll probably perk people's ears up.
Well, in a couple of these, we have panel discussions going on.
I didn't know that.
And we'll be discussing some really cool topics. Like, for example, you mentioned Dr. Alan Stern. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Alan and I go back quite a ways. And, he's best known because he led a ton of projects for NASA. He was, in fact, multi-millions dollars worth of projects for NASA, like hundreds of millions of dollars worth of projects. And one of the most prominent one he led was the New Horizons probe that went to Pluto. So we saw Pluto for the first time because of his probe, which by the way, and that happened in, 5-6 years ago. The number one headline on the news that day, when the day it arrived, should have been traveled 10 years in space, 27,000 miles an hour, got a gravity assist by Jupiter, and got there within 60 seconds of when it was supposed to. Yeah. I mean, it just shows you how perfect space is mathematically when you can travel 10 years in space at that speed and get there right on time. So we had some beautiful.
That is really funny.
Yeah,
we
had some beautiful pictures of instead of whatever stupid headline they had that day.
Yeah.
We had some
probably something about a pop star.
Yeah, exactly. These days Taylor Swift. So we had some beautiful. See how I worked that into this whole thing. So we had some beautiful shots of Pluto. But he's a bit of an adventurer too. So we've heard a lot here recently about the ill-fated Titan sub, the submarine that imploded down around the Titanic.
Yeah, he did some Titanic work.
Yeah, right? Well, he went down there in that sub. The mission before it imploded.
Oh, so, same sub?
Yeah, he was in the same exact sub.
Oh, God.
Yeah, a couple months prior to its implosion. And so he was in that sub. And then David Gallo, Dr. David Gallo, who's an oceanographer, one of the most famous oceanographers in the world for that matter. He's always on the news whenever. So he was on the news a lot when that imploded. But he's also was, when the Malaysian aircraft missing, he was on the news on that.
MH370.
He's in the news a lot. So the two of them are going to talk about...
which is still missing, by the way.
He's still missing, yeah.
This is like unheard of.
Yeah, unheard of.
Is he going to talk about that?
Yeah, he'll discuss that. So we're going to discuss a lot of different things in this panel discussion, but we're going to talk about the Titan sub. We're going to talk about what's changed. In fact, because it used to be that only certain countries were involved. Like when it came to space travel, it was basically for the longest time the United States, Russia, and then the European Space group got in, and then China's gotten into it, and other countries have now gotten into it. Now you have entrepreneurs doing it, right? Yeah. So it's all changed, and now you have a tourism side of the space that's starting now. Well, the ocean's the same way. Up until recently, it was just it was basically Russia, United States, and France. In France, that was it. now you have these billionaires who are wanting to do these different things, and so it's changed the dynamic, and it's changed the concerns on safety and how you get there and do that. So we're going to talk about that because they're both very similar in that regard.
I didn't even think of the parallel, by the way, as the ocean to people hundreds of years ago, thousands of years ago, I guess, is what space is to us now. Because it used to be just the daring and the explorers and the people who are highly trained. And now you have people on a cruise ship eating stuff and watching shows.
Right.
Like, is that kind of, like, history does repeat itself. Do you think that's kind of where we're heading? Like, space right now is for the professionals, but soon we're going to be taking space cruises?
Yes. There'll be a huge tourism aspect to space travel.
Crazy.
It's already started. I mean, for a couple $100,000, you get a seat now and go up.
Wow.
So it's already started. But again, we've explored way more space than we've ever have on our oceans. Most of our oceans, the vast majority, like there's some ridiculous number, like 80-90% of our oceans are unexplored.
What?
We have
Still?
no idea. Yeah, because they're vast. They are huge. And
so you mean if you would like somehow draw a line on where every ship has passed?
Well, I'm talking, no, that's the surface. I'm talking about underneath.
Oh, you're talking about underneath.
I'm talking about the depths of the ocean. We have not explored this.
Oh,
not
wow.
at all. Oh,
so
yeah,
that's another kind of future frontier.
So while we're trying to map things in space, they're trying to map the bottom of the ocean too, because there's a lot down there we are learning every day about our planet that we had no idea.
And is that just mostly, obviously, a technological limitation because the pressure of the ocean is so intense it's hard to get down there?
Yeah, which is what caused the implosion of the Titan.
Right,
full
absolutely.
Circle. We also have a panel discussion that's going to be two of our Star Trek cast members. And the reason why I'm bringing Frakes back, I had Jonathan Frakes here.
I was going to ask you about that.
I had him back here 6 years ago.
He just loves Iowa so much.
Well,
you can't keep him out.
He loved this event, no question about it. But I'm bringing Brent Spiner to come with him. Brent Spiner played Data the android on the show. He's won a Saturn Award for it. And,
interesting.
They were both in the most recent season 3 of the show Picard that was on Paramount Plus.
Oh,
that came out last year. That was the most highly rated Star Trek series ever.
Wow.
And it ranked right up there. And now they're talking about spinning off another series with the Next Generation crew again. Sans Patrick Stewart, Jean-Luc Picard, because he's getting a bit old. But all the rest of them. So they're popular. They're recent again. They're in the news again. So it's time to talk about Star Trek some more and where it's going, the franchise. And besides that, Frakes directs a lot of episodes and a lot of the different series are out there, including Strange New Worlds, which is my favorite one right now. Because Strange New Worlds is just like the original Star Trek with Shatner. I mean, it's just like that show, but modern. So we're gonna have a nice panel discussion, talking about Star Trek and directing and acting and how that whole dynamic works.
That's cool.
Et cetera. Susan Kil-rain, you mentioned, she's one of only 3 women to ever pilot the space shuttle,
and the youngest,
which
is crazy.
But she's also the only female astronaut that was a fighter pilot, at that time.
I didn't know that
in the
either.
astronaut corps. All the other female astronauts were flew heavies, like cargo planes, and she flew fighters for the Navy. She flew F-14s and A-6s.
Wow.
For the Navy off carriers. So, and she has a lot to talk about too, because she was around during that whole Navy tailhook scandal that was big, and it was a big male thing where women pilots were being degraded and so on and so forth. It was a big scandal in the military. And she was a big advocate for female pilots back then, and she has a bit of a G.I. Jane story. I don't know if you remember that movie with Demi Moore.
I never saw it,
but in that movie, Demi Moore, if you remember that G.I. Jane, she went through this Navy SEAL training, and she refused to. They wanted her to go up the short wall or climb up with some stairs to help her get some steps to get up over the top. She was assisted stuff, right? 'Cause she's a girl.
Yeah.
She refused to do that, and because she knew that she'd never be respected by her peers if she did do all that. So, and Susan had the same problem in flight school. They wanted her to do the short wall.
Really?
And do this stuff that was less
that's
than
a real thing.
Less than the male counterparts.
I
yeah.
didn't know
and
that.
She refused to do it. So she for the same reason, she knew she'd never be respected by her fellow pilots if she went through the girl program, so to speak.
Right.
So she made sure she went through the same program and had the same degree of toughness, and so she has some great stories to talk about as well during that.
You mentioned Frakes loving the event, and I'm really curious. Any other guest stories or what do they say about Iowa, or any fascinating guest stories of something interesting that happened at CI Week? Like, what are some of the highlights over the past? How long did you say it's been? Over a decade now?
15 years.
Goodness. 15
years. And CI stands for Celebrate Innovation, by the way. So it's Celebrate Innovation Live is the formal name of it now. But the reason why we go out of our way, we have to talk about Iowa nice, right? We go out of our way to treat our guests like they are the most special people on the planet. We don't do LA here. And I say it because I've been to LA a lot. I've dealt with a lot of LA celebrities over the years.
Yeah.
I know a lot of them. I think I'm also the chair for the International Space Development Conference in May out in LA, and I'm dealing with them right now. There's a certain mentality, right? A certain mindset. And we're not that here.
Yeah.
And we treat our guests very, very well. Treat them very special. Treat them like like normal people, but we just treat them well.
Yeah.
And they love coming here. I've had repeat speakers over the years because life changes. They're involved in new things, and their world's changed too. So they come and tell their original story. Then their stories change a lot, and they come back 5-6 years later, and they want to come back, even at a reduced rate, because they have such a good time while they're here, and we treat them so well, and we just do a good job by them. So with that said, we also treat them so well here. Every speaker I've ever had, we're friends now. I mean that's how weird this is. I remember back when I first started booking speakers, I didn't know these people from Adam, right? And now we converse all the time. In fact, I remember I've reached out to these people, or they reach out to me with something just randomly. I had their cell numbers on my phone and everything else. So I stopped to think this the other day, of over 15 years of doing this, I've got a phone full of celebrities on my phone that I can literally text and call at any time. Call and text at any time. And you realize how small the world is all of a sudden, because if I wanted to reach out to a different speaker, I've done this, like with Brent Spiner, I reached out to Jonathan Frakes and said,
"You reach out through the current list."
I said, "Jonathan, hey, can you connect me with Brent? I want to bring him and you back to CI Live." And he said, "Sure." And he connected us. I'm talking to Brent, and that's how it works.
Yeah.
And I've had a lot of people that way over the years.
You built trust.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? That's what it's about.
Right.
It's that they have firsthand experience, and they say, "Hey, this is a legit event. They'll treat you well. They're kind." And someone else is like, "Okay, sign me up." That's how easy it is if you build that trust. So have you seen any, I think you used to do dinners with some of the guests a while. I don't know if you do that anymore, but have you seen any interesting patterns? Have guests said anything surprising, or have you had any interesting interactions at CI Week with these guests?
Oh, I've had plenty. I've had people do some really funny things at these events. Over the years, we do have a sponsor dinner. It's a closed dinner. It's for all of our sponsors.
Right.
It's a thank you, where all the speakers are there, and the speakers get to interact with them firsthand. So we do that, the night before the event, and they love that. We'll have a couple of book signings here because Susan Kil-rain has a new children's book out. That is. It's a great book. It's basically it's a book that is interactive for students. It tells her story, how she was a little girl wanted to be an astronaut. But we have our click and see things all scattered throughout, so you can literally click on this little logo with QR code all throughout the book and watch video clips of her doing this and doing that and doing this in space, launching and all kinds of stuff. So she'll be signing her book while she's there. But yeah, we've had a lot of, so we do these book signings for speakers, and they like that. And then, the sponsors appreciate that. We've had them do funny things, get up and speak and do little, imitations of other people, and they get really relaxed.
Uh-huh.
They may have had a couple of drinks and they get even more relaxed. And they're very, 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 very down to earth at that point. One thing I've learned in working with speakers over the years and booking talent is, because I'm an agent now, so I've learned that the people you deal with oftentimes for these people are the worst, right? Their gatekeepers are the worst people to deal with. I have learned that no matter how many constraints I have, I've worked with people over the past, they have to have this, they have to have this, they have to have this, they have to have this. And I'll tell you a funny story with Waz. But they have to have all these requirements. But when they get here, they don't really want to need any of that, right? It's their people, and their people are trying to justify their existence, right? And they're trying to be real harsh and hard, and really
their people
regimented.
Want their boss, the person coming, they want them to be impressed with them, like
right?
Whoa, look at all this stuff you got me.
Exactly.
Yeah,
so I mean, we do stuff like this is what separates us. Little things like this. My assistant has put Iowa product gift baskets in their rooms right when they arrive. So it's this basket, it's actually kind of a box, but a really nice decorative box, and it's full of Iowa products. It's full of things like Iowa cheeses and crackers and snacks and stuff all made here in Iowa, and they love that. I have more comments about that than anything else because they go, Tony, we've gone to all kinds of events all over the country, and I never have this kind of thing. I'm sitting in my room waiting for me, right?
Interesting.
So little touches like that to make the biggest difference. But like, for example, Steve Wozniak, he was co-founder of Apple. His people were adamant about the fact that he had to have in his room 2 bags of fiery hot Cheetos with lime.
What?
Yes, with lime. And here's the funny thing: we have fiery hot Cheetos here, but we don't have the lime one, right? That's a Southwest thing. So they were so adamant about it. So I had to call my friends down in Dallas and say, "Hey, can you go buy me a couple bags of this and ship this to me?"
Oh my
Which
word.
they did. Then we put them in his room. Oh yeah,
that's really good.
I've had these requests before where we do this and then the stuff never gets touched or eaten. It just sits there, right?
Yeah.
It's like I was like, okay, fine.
It's like I'm surprised he didn't want like an original Apple Newton.
Yeah, which I have one of those on my campus. Yeah, well, because our campus has a museum and exhibit to the to the world, for the history of technology. So yeah, we have all those on campus.
So what's the last 30 seconds, last minute of the show? We're over. That's fine. But last minute with the show, what's next for you? And what's next for you? What's next for CI Week?
Well, I don't know about CI Live after this. I mean, I really don't. Because I am technically retiring from DMACC shortly after CI Live is over this year. I'm not old enough to retire, so I'm actually going to be just starting the fourth and final act of my professional career.
Which is?
I am a partner in a company called Book Press Publishing and Media. And we publish 30 to 40 titles a year, and we do a lot of media-related work, but everything from like little short-run documentaries to video trailers for books, and et cetera. We also do a lot of marketing materials for our authors, and we're just killing it in that regard. We are the largest book publisher in the Des Moines Metro now, and growing steadily. So I'm going to be sliding over to that and spending all my time on that. We will be doing events. One of the events we do currently now is we have an educational arm, and we just finished our first Imagine DSM cohort group and it was all on entrepreneurship, and we had a cohort through Fuse here in town, the Fuse DSM. And we ran that. It goes from October to March. We're starting our next cohort next October. Meets every Friday, the first Friday of the month, and we're also doing an emerging leaders program. But we'll probably do an event similar to CI Live, and we'll probably call it Imagine Des Moines. And that's to be determined and coming down the road. As far as DMACC and CI Live, I don't know. I won't be there to have those decisions.
Because you're handing it over. So
yeah, I'm handing it over.
Hopefully they continue it.
Hopefully they will. And
what's
we'll
the
see.
website for the publishing company?
Oh, it's just the long one is bookpresspublishing.com.
Okay, that's easy enough.
Or you can go to bookpress.pub.
And then what's the website? And just to clarify, for CI Week, what's the date? And tickets are free, right?
It's free. Yeah. It's April 4th, and the website is ci.live. Everything's out there on the website, but it's ci.live. It starts April 4th at 9 a.m. It goes all day long. We have our very own Will Keeps who will be there.
That's right.
Because he has a new book out called Willpower, his memoir, and he'll be there as well to kick us off. But we're wrapping the show up that day with a live concert by the Grassroots, and you probably don't know their music, but remember, they had one of the top 9 charting bands of all time. They had like 20, 30 hits. Wow. You'll recognize them all. I promise you, they've been playing on the radio forever. And I saw this concert in Vegas last summer, and my wife and I were so like taken aback by it. We're like, we got to get these people here. Seriously. So awesome. I reached out to their agent, and now they're coming, and it'll be a great show to end up in this year's event. So,
Dr. Anthony Paustian, pro-host of DMACC West, and of course, director, leader, founder, whatever, of CI Week at DMACC. Thank you so much for coming on the Iowa Podcast.
Appreciate it.
I appreciate it.
Yeah.
And to my fellow Iowans, Iowa expats, and Iowans at heart, thanks for listening and subscribing to the Iowa Podcast.